Hello everybody, I'm really excited because I've got a big book haul to show you guys. I had some gift cards from Christmas and I went and redeemed them and got a bunch of good stuff. Let's just jump right into it. The first thing isn't even a book, it's a movie, but it's a movie based off of a book, and it is Needful Things by Stephen King. Well, the movie's not by Stephen King. The book is. And I have not read the book yet or seen the movie, but I found it for cheap, and I want the movie for when I do read the book. I can immediately watch the movie. Honestly, really have not heard much about this film, either way of if it's good or not. I don't know if it's one of the ones that Stephen King has voiced his approval for or not. It is done by Kino Lorber Classics Distribution. They're not a bad distribution company. I've got some of their other stuff. I got some 4K of their stuff. Not bad. They don't really do anything too crazy, though. It's not like Criterion where they give you all the special features or anything like that. But these next two books are of the same author, and I got them because I had read The Only One Left by Raleigh Sager, and I thought it was amazing. I gave it a 5 out of 5. And so I got a couple of books from him so that I can check out his other stuff. And the first one is The House Across the Lake. This is one that I've heard a lot of buzz about just online. Sounds really good. Basically, like this widowed actress, makes an escape to her lake house in Vermont. She passes a lot of her time watching her neighbors and across the lake. They end up meeting each other by chance, and the more she finds out about them, the more it seems like their marriage, like there's a lot of weird stuff going on, and the girl of the couple vanishes, and main character ends up immediately suspecting the boyfriend. Says what she doesn't realize is that there's more to the story than meets the eye, and that shocking secrets can lurk beneath the most placid of surfaces. It sounds like it's a similar mystery type of book like The Only One Left was, and if this has plot twists anything even close to as good as The Only One Left, so I know I'm gonna love this. So that's why I chose that one, the one I hear the most of from Raleigh Sager. And then a friend of mine had told me that their favorite book by him was this one, and it is The Last Time I Lied. Because I told this friend of mine to read The Only One Left, and they had never heard of it. And I told them, oh, it's by Raleigh Sager, and they're like, oh, that must be his new book because I haven't heard of that, and he's like one of my favorite writers right now. And so she's like, you need to read The Last Time I Lied, so I picked up this one. So this will probably be the next one I read by him. I don't know when I'll read this one, but I'll probably read this before The House Across the Lake. I'll just read the back. Two Truths and a Lie. Vivian, Natalie, Adelson, and Emma played it all the time at Camp Nightingale. But the games ended the night Emma sleepily watched the others sneak out of the cabin into the darkness. The last she or anyone saw of them was Vivian closing the cabin door, hushing Emma with a finger pressed to her lips. Now a rising star in the New York art scene, Emma turns her past into paintings, massive canvases filled with dark, gnarled branches that cover ghostly shapes in white dresses. When the paintings catch the attention of the wealthy owner of Camp Nightingale, Francesca implores Emma to return to the newly reopened camp as an art instructor. Wouldn't she like to put the past to rest? Familiar faces and the same dark lake haunt Nightingale, where Emma is even assigned to the same cabin she slept in 15 years ago. But not everything is the same. The only security camera is pointed directly at Emma's door, and long-hidden cryptic clues that Vivian left behind begin to surface. Soon, Emma finds herself sorting through the lies from the past while facing mysterious threats in the present. And the closer she gets to the truth about Camp Nightingale, the more she realizes that closure could come at a deadly price. I mean, honestly, like, if I end up enjoying these two books, like, even half as much as I enjoyed The Only One Left, Raleigh Sager might end up being one of my favorite authors as well. So I'm really excited to check these books out. And if you've seen any of my past videos, you might have seen my Looking Glass review by Cetrion Ward. And I really liked that book. And I had heard of this book online a lot, especially like advertised on Goodreads and stuff. It just always seems to be coming up, so I ended up picking it up to try it out, see what our other stuff is like. But it's The Last House on Needless Street. And even Stephen King has a line, a true nerve shredder, so. And really excited to check this out, see what else Catriona Award has in store for us. I'll just read the back of this one as well, why not? In a boarded-up house on a dead-end street at the edge of the wild Washington woods lives a family of 3. A young girl who isn't allowed outside, not after last time. A man who drinks alone in front of his TV, trying to ignore the gaps in his memory. And a house cat who loves napping and reading the Bible. An unspeakable secret binds them together, but when a new neighbor moves in next door, what is buried out among the birch trees may come back to haunt them all. Sounds really intriguing. There's another quote in here on the inside of Stephen King, says, keeps its mind-blowing secrets to the very end. Sounds a lot like how Looking Glass Sound was. And Joe Hill, Stephen King's son, and also a fantastic, phenomenal writer, says, a chilling and beautiful masterpiece of suspense. So, can't wait to read that one as well. Here's an interesting book for metal music lovers out there, maybe. I guess depending on the type of metal you like. It is Ice Nine Kills the Silver Scream. And it says now a major motion picture, which it's not. Like, I think that's referring to all the music videos. Apparently by Roy Merkin. And yeah, it's basically like a narrative about the lore behind the Silver Scream albums, which are, so far at least, maybe they'll come out with more, but as of right now, they've come out with 2 albums, The Silver Scream and Welcome to Horrorwood, The Silver Scream 2. It's basically metalcore albums with lyrics about horror movies. They're amazing albums. Ice Nine Kills is a great band. Spencer Charnas has a set of lungs on him, man. His growls are great, and his screams are great, and his clean vocals are phenomenal. Oh, I love it. All right, next up, Grady Hendrix, How to Sell a Haunted House. Now, I've heard of him for a while, and I've heard a lot of his books are getting like crazy mad, like great reviews. I've been wanting to read his book, My Best Friend's Exorcism, for a long time, ever since I saw the cover. It looks like an old horror VHS cassette. But I haven't gotten around to it, and I don't know, with Looking Glass Sound, Leftover Woman, and The Only One Left, it just seems like 2023 had a lot of great novels for the thriller and horror genre, and so I've made a list of a bunch of books like that from 2023 that I really want to read, and this was one of them. This came out in 2023, so I figured what better way to start reading Grady Hendrix than his last book? Why not? I heard a lot of great things about this. Really excited to read it. I think it's basically about a haunted house. When Louise finds out that her parents have died, she dreads going home. She doesn't want to leave her daughter with her ex and fly to Charleston. She doesn't want to deal with her family home, stuffed to the rafters with the remnants of her father's academic career and her mother's lifelong obsession with puppets and dolls. She doesn't want to learn how to live without the 2 people who knew and loved her best in the world. Most of all, she doesn't want to deal with her brother Mark, who never left their hometown, gets fired from one job after another, and resents her success. Unfortunately, she'll have to have his help in order to get the house ready for sale, because it'll take more than some new paint on the walls and clearing out a lifetime of memories to get this place on the market. But some houses don't want to be sold, and Louise and Mark's home have other plans for both of them. Judging from the blurb, it doesn't sound like anything too different or anything like that, like pops out too much, I don't think, but as I've said, my hype for this book is more on what a lot of people have been saying, a lot of people that have read it, and since he's kind of gotten a sort of following with his other novels. Like, another novel I've been really wanting to read from his is The Final Girls Support Group, and he also wrote The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. I've heard just from so many people that his writing is fantastic, that his books are fantastic, and I've heard people rave about this book, so I really cannot wait to read this one. Next book is Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. Hopefully I pronounced that right. Now, I have not read this book, but it's been on my read list, TBR, for a long time. Pretty much ever since I watched the Alfred Hitchcock film of the same name, obviously based off of this novel. That movie was phenomenal. Definitely earlier on in Hitchcock's career, so it's not like he's definitely not at his most refined, but he still shows such a great knack for suspense and camera work and everything. And I've been really wanting to read Daphne du Maurier because I also love the movie Don't Look Now, which is based off of one of her short stories of the same name. Another Alfred Hitchcock film is The Birds, which is based off of another short story of hers, also by the same name. And it's like I've watched these three movies. I love all three movies, but I've never read any of her stuff. And I know a lot of people, especially horror authors and thriller authors, they cite her as a huge influence and say how great her writing is. So I am a little disappointed that like the only copy that I've found, at least in person, is this little mass market paperback version that's not very impressive or anything, but you know, it was nice and cheap. What matters is the contents inside the book, right? So, and maybe if I do end up loving the book enough, maybe I'll go out and try to find like a more fancier copy of it. But at least for now, like, this will allow me to read it finally, and I've been wanting to read it for a long time. So next book I have here is The Yellow Wallpaper and Other Writings by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. Now, I've already read The Yellow Wallpaper, and I have it anthologized in a couple of different short story collections that I have. But, you know, obviously, like this says, there's other writings too. There's other stories. There's The Giant Wisteria, Three Thanksgivings, The Cottagette, An Honest Woman, Making a Change, Turned, The Widow's Mite, If I Were a Man, Mr. Peebles' Heart, and The Unnatural Mother. And Herland is in here. I don't know why. It's maybe it's a longer story, but it's like it's a different font from the rest of the stories. Bigger font and everything. I don't know. And selections from Women in Economics. I think the only other one that I've heard of in here is Mr. Peebles' Heart. I vaguely remember hearing about that. I don't know anything about it other than the fact that I think I've heard of it. It's just one of those things. For one thing, I thought this edition looked cool. I like that cover. I love this trade paperback style. That's my favorite type of book, is trade paperback. Hardcovers are cool too, but they're also sometimes a little bit awkward to hold in your hand, whereas trade paperbacks are so comfortable to hold and read, and a lot of times they look awesome. Yeah, I thought it'd be interesting to read some of her other stuff, because I love The Wallpaper so much. Something about having, you know, a book called The Yellow Wallpaper just makes me happy, instead of being like, oh yeah, I own The Yellow Wallpaper, it's in Classic Horror Stories, or I think it's actually in my American Gothic Stories collection. It's in another collection as well, but, you know, this way I'm going to be like, you know, The Yellow Wallpaper, boom. One of those little things. If you haven't read The Wallpaper, highly recommend it. It's a super short story. It's like 20 pages or something like that. If you want, you can read into a little bit of background of what she was going for, or you can read it, look into the background of it, and then reread it. One of those things. But the background kind of makes you appreciate it a lot more. For another novel that I've been wanting to read for a while, I got this copy of Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. It's Penguin Classics. A lot of times they offer some extra information, extra notes. Like, it has like a little bit of a biography about Charlotte Bronte. It's got like an introduction, has chronology, a note on the text, further reading, acknowledgments, appendix, notes. And I like that, especially with like older classics. Love having those notes, because sometimes it, you know, gives me some more insights about the text that I wouldn't have known otherwise, that help me appreciate what they were going for, what some things were about. And there's definitely some older stories that nowadays we kind of need that, because we didn't live back then, we didn't know, like especially take Wuthering Heights for example. I'm not a big fan of that novel, mainly because all the characters are so unlikable. But at the same time, I know the background of Victorian England, and how a lot of their stories were about morality and the better part of mankind, I guess. And so they didn't want anything too sinister or too greedy or selfish in their characters and everything like that. Kind of, there's a lot of censorship going on, in a way, I guess. And then she comes along, Charlotte Bronte's sister, was it Elizabeth Bronte or something like that? I don't remember exactly her name. She was mainly a poet, but she did write that one novel, Wuthering Heights, and it just tears down a bunch of conventions of the English Victorian novel, and for that, I do really appreciate how it did that. Now, if I didn't know any of that background, I would have just hated the book and, like, completely and just been like, that was a waste of time. But at least knowing that, I can still appreciate it even if I didn't find the text itself to be too entertaining. It's still an important piece of literature, and I'm able to respect that, if that makes sense. So, Jane Eyre, well-known classic. Probably a lot of you know what it's pretty much about, but you know, it's basically dazzled and shocked readers with its passionate depiction of a woman's search for equality and freedom in her own terms. Its heroine Jane endures loneliness and cruelty in the home of her heartless aunt and the cold charity of Lowood School. Her natural independence and spirit prove necessary when she takes a position as a governess at Thornfield Hall, but when she finds love with her sardonic employer, Rochester, the discovery of a shameful secret forces her to make a terrible choice. What I've understood is that it's like pretty gothic in a lot of its inspirations. I don't know if it's like a full-on gothic novel, but kind of like Wuthering Heights wasn't really a gothic novel, but she was very influenced by the gothic genre. And so I'm really excited to read this. I've heard that it gets pretty messed up in parts. For older books like that, I don't really know exactly what that means, because today's standards, it might not really be that messed up, because I've definitely had books like that where people are like, oh man, it gets really fucked up, man, and it's like, that was it? Well, for back then, it was pretty fucked up. Okay. When you said it, I thought you were talking about for today's standards, but you know, oh well. Next up, I already have a copy of this, but I don't have a hardcover copy of it, and this had a cooler cover than the copy I have, and it was also cheap because it was pre-owned. Stephen King, Dolores Claiborne. I also have not read this one yet, but I've heard so many great things about it. Really cannot wait to read it. Don't know when I'll read it. Whoever owned this before left a cool bookmark in there for me. Just not really that cool, but I mean still. I love this blurb. It just starts off, by her own account, she's an old Yankee bitch. Dolores Claiborne, foul temper, foul mouth, foul life. Folks on Little Tall Island have been waiting 30 years to find out just what happened on the eerie dark day her husband Joe died. The day of the total eclipse. The police want to know what happened yesterday when rich, bedridden Vera Donovan, the island's grande dame sans merci, I probably butchered that French so bad, and Dolores' longtime employer died suddenly in her care. With no choice but to talk, Dolores Claiborne talks up a storm. Everything I did for love, she says, and the spellbinding novel is at once her confession and her defense. Given a voice as compelling as any in contemporary fiction, her story centers on a disintegrating marriage's molten core, where the mind's unblinking eye becomes huge with hate and a woman's heart turns murderous. It unfolds the strange intimacy between Dolores and Vera and the link that binds them. It shows finally how fierce love can be and how dreadful its consequences, and how the soul harrowed by the hardest life can achieve a kind of grace. But that is for readers to judge. They will come away with different verdicts for Dolores, perhaps, but once taken inside the dark room of her life, lit by the brilliant intensity of Stephen King's storytelling, they will never forget her. I hear the movie is also fantastic. Next up is another book I don't really know too much about. I remember reading the blurb and thinking it sounded really cool, and it's also been recommended to me by a friend, and I found this pre-owned copy for pretty cheap, but Devil House by John Darnielle, I don't know how to pronounce the last name. Probably butcher everybody's last names because I'm a piece of shit. I'm pretty sure, because I thought this was a horror novel, but when I looked it up on Goodreads and Storygraph, I'm pretty sure it's a crime thriller. Oh wow, I didn't realize this guy is the singer and songwriter of the Mountain Goats. Band I've only heard a few songs from, actually. Gage Chandler is descended from kings. That's what his mother always told him when he was a child. Years later, he is a true crime writer with one grisly success and a movie adaptation to his name, along with a series of subsequent, less notable efforts. But now he is being offered the chance for the big break, to move into the house where a pair of briefly notorious murders occurred, apparently the work of disaffected teens during the Satanic Panic of the 1980s. Chandler finds himself in Milpitas, California. I don't know how to say that town name. A small town whose name rings a bell. His closest childhood friend lived there, once upon a time. He begins his research into the murders with diligence and enthusiasm, but soon the story leads him into a puzzle he never expected. Back into his own work and what it means, back to the very core of what he does and who he is. Devil House is John Darnielle's most ambitious work yet, a book that blurs the line between fact and fiction, that combines daring formal experimentation with a spellbinding tale of crime, writing, memory, and artistic obsession. One thing I really like about this book is that, this came out in 2022. Like, the cover looks like an old horror book from, like, 80s or the 70s or something like that, so that's really cool. And I do love that cover a lot. Like, that image. It's fucking awesome. So I'm really excited to read that. I think I might have mentioned in another video, I've been trying to find these novels about witchcraft, about like the Puritan, satanic type of witches. This is one of the books that I got for that, and it is, how do you pronounce this name? It's Hex by Thomas Old Huvelt. Is that how you pronounce it? I don't know. But this is really cool copy of it. I really like that cover. I've heard from a lot of people that it is a really good, really messed up book about a witch. It's about a witch whose eyes and mouth are sewn shut. She walks the streets and enters homes at will, and stands next to children's beds for nights on end. And everyone knows that her eyes may never be opened or the consequences will be too terrible to bear. So it sounds like the whole town knows about her and is keeping her and her power sealed, for lack of a better way to say it. The Elders of Black Spring have virtually quarantined the town by using high-tech surveillance to prevent their curse from spreading. Frustrating with being kept in lockdown, the town's teenagers decide to break their strict regulations and go viral with the haunting. But in doing so, they send the town spiraling into the dark, medieval practices of the distant past. This terrifying, all too close for comfort, modern novel launches Thomas Old Hewitt into the company of genre masters like Joe Hill and Peter Straub, and Hex remains one of the most exciting horror debuts of the last decade. So apparently this is a debut novel by this guy, and I've heard so many great things about this. And the witch is from the 17th century as well, so. Going along with that, here's another book that I've been wanting to read for that same reason. Slewfoot, A Tale of Bewitchery by Brom. I love this cover. I love, like the woman and then goat legs. An ancient spirit awakens in a dark wood. The wild folk call him father, slayer, protector. The colonists call him Slewfoot, demon, devil. To Abatha, a recently widowed outcast, alone and vulnerable in her pious village, he is the only one she can turn to for help. Together they ignite a battle between pagan and Puritan, one that threatens to destroy the entire village, leaving nothing but ashes and bloodshed in its wake. So, again, perfect for the type of witch that I'm looking for. And I also like, on the back here, this little pagan god looking sort of guy. And apparently, like, in the middle, there's like these pictures. Now, is the lighting good enough to see those? So, and I think both Slewfoot and Hex, I think they came out within the past few years, so they're pretty newer novels, but they're both about that old type of witch, which, is awesome. Another of the 2023 horror thriller books that I want to read is Drowning, The Rescue of Flight 1421 by T.J. Newman. Now, I've heard a lot of great things about this, and I think T.J. Newman herself worked as a pilot. She's worked in something in the past. I can't remember if it was pilot or rescue or something like that, but so she's kind of taken inspirations from her own training and from things that she's actually seen to make this story about essentially a plane crash. 6 minutes after takeoff, Flight 1421 crashes into the Pacific Ocean. During the evacuation, an engine explodes and the plane is flooded. Those still alive are forced to close the doors, but it's too late. The plane sinks to the bottom with 12 passengers trapped inside. More than 200 feet below the surface, engineer Will Kent and his 11-year-old daughter Shannon are waist-deep in water and fighting for their lives. Their only chance at survival is an elite rescue team on the surface led by professional diver Chris Kent, Shannon's mother and Will's soon-to-be ex-wife, who must work together with Will to find a way to save their daughter and rescue the passengers from the sealed airplane, which is now teetering on the edge of an undersea cliff. There's not much time. There's even less air. With devastating emotional power and heart-stopping suspense, Drowning is an unforgettable thriller about a family's desperate fight to save themselves and the people trapped with them against impossible odds. As you can see, a lot of these books are ones I haven't actually read yet, but I've been wanting to read for a while. This next book is a shorter book. It's by an author who I've read one of her books before, and I thought the book was really cool and really, uniquely written, I guess. So I wanted to pick up something else by her, and this one sounded really good, so I got The Salt Grows Heavy by Cassandra Khaw. And the book that I've read from her before is Nothing But Blackened Teeth, which was another really short book, kind of similar length to this. It's a little over 100 pages. In Nothing But Blackened Teeth, she used some of these similes and metaphors that just felt very different from what most authors would seem to go for. Definitely using a lot of almost poetic imagery to paint some of the pictures for the descriptions, I guess. And I liked it. I thought the story, if I remember right, I had some issues with the story because I think I only gave that one a 3 out of 5. Maybe I need to reread it again, but I still liked it. And this one is about... You may think you know how the fairy tale goes. A mermaid comes to shore and weds the prince. But what the fables forget is that mermaids have teeth, and now her daughters have devoured the kingdom and burned it to ashes. On the run, the mermaid is joined by a mysterious plague doctor with darkness of their own. Deep in an eerie, snow-encrusted forest, the pair stumble upon a village of ageless children who thirst for blood, and 3 saints who control them. The mermaid and her doctor must embrace the cruelest part of their true natures if they hope to survive. And as you can see, there's a little plague doctor on the cover. I fucking love this cover. I mean, that sounds awesome. I am kind of curious to see how she's able to do all of... Because that sounds like a lot of stuff going on, and there's only 106 pages in this. So it'll be interesting to see. If I remember right, that was my big problem with Nothing But Blackened Teeth, is that it was almost too short. I would have liked it to have been more fleshed out. But it actually shows the cover of Nothing But Blackened Teeth on the back here. That is a sick cover. She definitely finds people to make great covers for her, so really excited to try this out. Another witch book, which I actually didn't know that this existed until I saw it in the store, and then I looked it up online, see how the reviews were, and a lot of people seem to like it. It is The Witching Tide by Margaret Meyer. East Anglia, 1645. Martha Hallibread, a midwife, healer, and servant, has lived peacefully for more than 4 decades in her beloved seaside village of Cleftwater. Having lost her voice as a child, Martha has not spoken a word in years. One autumn morning, a sinister newcomer appears in town. The witchfinder, Silas Makepeace, has been blazing a trail of destruction along the coast and now has Cleftwater in his sights. His arrival strikes fear into the heart of the community. Within a day, local women are being captured and detained, and Martha finds herself a silent witness to the hunt. Powerless to protest, Martha is enlisted to search the accused women for devil's marks. She is caught between suspicion and betrayal, between shielding herself or condemning the women of the village. In desperation, she revives a wax witching doll that belonged to her mother in the hope that it will bring protection. But the doll's true powers are unknowable, and Martha harbors a terrible secret, and the gallows are looming. Set over the course of just a few weeks that will forever change history, The Witching Tide delivers powerful and psychologically astute insights about the demands of friendship and the nature of loyalty, and heralds the arrival of a striking new voice in fiction. Jesus fucking Christ, when are you gonna guys... Astute insights about the demands of friendship. Come on, do you really get... Why do so many book blurbs have to, end in, the true meaning of friendship? Shut up, dude. It doesn't make people want to read your book more. People are just now that you put that up there, it kind of makes it sound fucking corny as hell. Alright, we only have a couple of books left, so... Next one is The Curator by Owen King. I was actually hoping to find Double Feature by Owen King, because that's more on the horror side. I love this opening graphic. I'll read the blurb, like I have been doing, because I don't seem to actually know what any of these books are about, because I'm a piece of shit. It begins in the city nicknamed the Fairest, distinguished by many things from its river, the mighty fair, to the mountains that split the municipality in half. Its theaters and many museums, the morgue ship, and like all cities, but maybe especially so, by its Essential Unmappability. Dora has an obscure desire to find where her brother went after he died, believing that the answer lies within the Society for Psychical Research, where he worked when Dora was a child. With the city amid an overthrow of the ruling classes, Dora discovers the society all but burned to the ground, yet finds a way to become the wartime curator of the museum next door and search for the truth. Owen King has crafted an ominous yet delightfully sweeping novel of secret histories, monstrous magic, and revolution, all tied to an obscure little museum whose secrets begin to unfurl along the mysterious history of the city itself. I've just been really curious how Owen King's writing is like, because, you know, I'm a huge fan of Stephen King, his father, and I'm a huge fan of Joe Hill, his brother. So, and I realized I'd never actually read anything by him. I know him and Stephen King have co-wrote a book together called Sleeping Beauties, which I think is about an all-women's prison. And I think that goes into horror. I think that's a horror novel, if I remember right. I haven't read it yet, unfortunately, like I just said. I love that cover. I see that there's a cat there, and there's a cat on the side here, and like I was showing on the inside, there's a bunch of other cats. So I'm really excited to see how cats seem to be popping up everywhere on these covers. And, you know, I love cats. I love cats and dogs, man. I love animals. I love... If I could fucking domesticate a bear, especially a black bear, and have it as a pet, that'd be the fucking awesomest thing ever. Black bears are so goddamn cute. But I digress. So, I'm really interested. Really can't wait to read that one. I can't wait to read any of these. Now, last but not least, I think I've said on this channel before about my love-hate relationship with H.P. Lovecraft. I love his imagination and, you know, just the weird worlds he creates, the weird creatures he creates. But a lot of times I find his prose to be just a chore. It's not hard to read. It's just hard to keep your attention on because he just keeps going and he just takes so long to say simple things, and it's like, bro. It's just annoying to me. I've read his entire works of fiction, and some I like more than others, obviously, like with anything. So I've already owned this copy of The Complete Fiction of H.P. Lovecraft for a long time now. I think I've had it since, like, high school, maybe college. And, you know, this is hefty boy. And, yeah, I've read everything in here. Read all the stories. I already own that. But I found this, and I had to get it, because even though it's H.P. Lovecraft, it is annotated. It's also got a sick-ass cover. It's this big freaking book. Yeah, the new annotated H.P. Lovecraft Beyond Arkham, and introduction by Victor Laval, whoever that is, and edited with a foreword and notes by Leslie S. Klinger, whoever that is. So yeah, it's got notes in the margins, it's got pictures here and there, there's information about a lot of stuff. There's something about annotated books like these of stories that I like. It's really cool to be able to like see all the information in the notes that they give out. So the stories that are in here is The Tomb, Polaris, The Transition of Juan Romero, The Doom That Came to Sarnath, The Terrible Old Man, The Cats of Ulthar, Facts Concerning the Late Arthur German and His Family, The Temple, Celophaeus, From Beyond, Ex Oblivion, The Quest of Iranon, The Outsider, The Other Gods, The Music of Eric Zan, The Lurking Fear, The Rats in the Walls, Under the Pyramids, The Shunned House, The Horror at Red Hook, He, Cool Air, The Strange High House in the Mist, Pickman's Model, and The Dream Quest of Unknown Kadath. And then there's additional material of the outline of the life and career of Howard Phillips Lovecraft, the fiction of H.P. Lovecraft in order of writing, The Red Hook Incantation, and a complete Lovecraft Gazetteer. There just seems like there's a lot here that'll be really interesting. It's got a pretty good list of stories. Has some of my favorites by H.P. Lovecraft, but it doesn't have all my favorites. I do really like The Cats of Ulthar. I mean, that one's really awesome. I mean, it's about fucking cats and like basically a society that worships cats. If you don't know, H.P. Lovecraft fucking adored cats. Unfortunately, his family cat had an unfortunate name. For those who know, you know. He even puts it in the Rats in the Walls story, which, other than that, I know that that sucks, but The Rats in the Walls, the story itself, is also one of my favorites by H.P. Lovecraft. I also really liked From Beyond, and I loved the movie with Jeffrey Combs. The Lurking Fear was a good one. It's a kind of a longer one, if I remember right. Cool Air is another one I really like. And there's an adaptation of it in the anthology film Necronomicon, which is really good. Pickman's Model is also really good. Some of these I don't remember exactly if I liked them, or like how well I liked them, or what really happens in them. If I remember right, The Dream Quest of Unknown Kadath was one that was kind of eh. Horror at Red Hook, if I remember right, was alright. It has been a little while since I've read some of them, so... But yeah, like... Definitely rereading them in this way, where I get more information and notes and shit, might awaken something about them that I didn't know that I highly appreciated before, you know, just give me new appreciation for older material. That was one of my favorite finds. It's like, even though I got all these new stuff, I'll just buy something that has stuff I've already read before, but with new shit. I don't know. So that's my book haul. Yeah, let me know if you've read any of these books, which ones you like, which ones you hate, which ones you're like, you should have never fucking picked that up, you fucking piece of shit, you're stupid. And yeah, and hopefully I'm done with buying new books for a little bit, because I don't fucking have enough room for where I'm living right now. I don't really have a heck of a lot of room, and I have so many books that I want to read, but of course, a lot of these books I've been meaning to read too, so I really like doing these book haul videos. Let me know what you guys think. You know, should I keep this up? What do you guys like? Do you like it when I tell you about what each book is about, or would you rather me just be like, yeah, so I got this book, check out the cover and this stuff like that? Maybe say like, you know, if it's something I've read before, and if it is, like, if I like it or not, without going into too much detail, or do you like the just telling you about everything and reading the blurbs or telling you what they're about? You know, let me know.